Now, there's a couple of big things most companies and teams get wrong here. The first one is that they probably select the wrong space types when creating Jira spaces. So if I go to spaces, I click on view all, or I want to create a new space, I'm met with a ton of different templates. And a lot of the reason that people don't like Jira, especially like non-technical teams, right? Because Jira is fundamentally a development tool, or was fundamentally a development tool. The biggest reason for that is they're choosing the wrong spaces. And there's really only a couple of options you need to choose from and be aware of when creating a new Jira space. And I actually like to skip all of these templates and go straight to the product. And the way I look at this is it's really one of two options for the products, and then only a couple of options within each product. So if I'm building something for customer support, for service management, for IT teams receiving tickets, any kind of triaging work where a customer or an end user submits something, and then there's an agent that executes on it, solves the problem, and then relays the solution to the customer, that is all a service management product. It's really as simple as that. So we go to service management, and then you could choose a template here if you'd like, but really all of them are just a blank space with some extra stuff on top of it. You could delete that stuff or build it on top of yourself. So I would typically just choose blank space here. So that covers our service management products and spaces. So very simple, right? Just go to service management, click blank space, you're good to go. The next type of project is going to be, let's say, a development team or some kind of a team that's doing engineering type work. Maybe they're using code, repositories, etc. For that, you're going to go to the product of Jira, and then you're going to either select Kanban or Scrum. Those are the only two options you actually need to be worried about. And if you're a team that likes to run sprints, all you do is select Scrum. If you don't like to run sprints, you select Kanban. So that's really the criteria. It's, are you an engineering team? If yes, you're down to these two options. If you want to run sprints, click this. If you don't, click this. That's it. Now, the last type of team is kind of the bucket of anybody else, right? A marketing team trying to track tasks, an IT team trying to track projects, maybe a procurement team trying to track procurement requests coming in. So for everything else, all we need to do is select this blank space. And the reason we need to select this blank space is because it's entirely different from these Scrum and Kanban type spaces. And I'll show you why. But really, it's one that you can't revert. So it's, if I select one of these options, in order for me to get the blank space, or like what Jira calls the business space or project, I have to recreate it from scratch and run a full migration. So this is probably one of the biggest mistakes I see teams making when actually setting up new spaces. And fundamentally, they are very, very different. So I'll open up a development team as an example. And if I go into a work item in here, you'll see there's going to be things like, for example, environments, things like products, things like sprints, fixed versions, a bunch of development related things that are, creating branches, commits, things that, let's say, a marketing team would never care about. So instead of selecting a space like this, which is what a lot of teams do because they assume that this is just a more robust version of Jira, when it's really not. It's just not meant for those types of teams. What you're going to want to select is a business space, which looks a little bit more like this. It's a lot simpler. It's a lot cleaner. It gives you all of the features you would want for a business type team in a much more streamlined version of Jira that allows your teams to be simpler, to use Jira simpler. It doesn't include any of the development items that we saw earlier, doesn't include sprints, it doesn't include fixed versions, doesn't include GitHub repositories. This is very similar to what you'd find in like an Asana or a Monday, or very similar tools associated with like that business kind of work types, right? So this is the project type I would highly recommend for every other team. And basically the kind of checklist I run through my own head is this a service management team? If yes, I go to service management product, click blank. If no, is it a software team? And if it is it a software team that wants to run sprints or doesn't want to? If they do, I select Scrum. If they don't, I select Kanban. And if the answer is no to any of those, it's a business space. That's kind of how I like to run through it in my head. There is that 1% of times where it might be something slightly different, or you might need product discovery, or maybe a project might work a little bit better. But 99% of the time, that's all the criteria that you need to actually worry about to create the correct spaces in Jira. And once you get that fundamental baseline project creation correct, everything built on top of it's going to be a million times easier. Because the moment you create a software space for a business team, there is, I don't want to say there's no going back, but it's really a full migration to get them into the right space after that. And those business spaces are very, very specifically meant for non-technical teams, and they are phenomenal for the exact teams that need to use them. So that's by far the biggest mistake I see made. And that's really all we need for execution layer inside of Jira. The biggest Jira mistake I see being made is when teams try to achieve a goal by implementing Jira, but they miss the execution layer. This is the thing that allows you to achieve your goals inside of your tool layer. And if you're curious how we implement the grid operating system with our clients, hit the first link in the description below.